William Shakespeare was the English playwright, poet, and author of some of the best plays and classics the world has ever known. For centuries, Shakespeare's plays have remained highly popular and constantly studied, performed, and interpreted in diverse cultural and political contexts throughout the world. Miguel de Cervantes was a Spanish writer who is widely regarded as the greatest writer in the Spanish language. His masterpiece, Don Quixote, has been translated into perhaps more languages than any other book except the Bible. It is sometimes considered the first modern novel and one of the best works of fiction ever written. What do these two literary legends have in common? One striking thing is that they both died on the same date, April 23, 1616. And what's the connection between these dates and books? First, in 1923, a Valencian writer decided to promote April 23rd as a date to remember the Spanish legendary writer Miguel de Cervantes. And then in 1995, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, decided that the World Book and Copyright Day will be celebrated on 23rd of April as the anniversary of the death of William Shakespeare, as well as that of several other prominent authors. So, if you ever wondered why people mark April 23rd every year as World Book Day, those are the stories behind the choice. Some countries, however, use different dates for the celebration. The United Kingdom, for instance, recognizes the first Thursday in March every year as the World Book Day, partly because 23rd of April sometimes clashes with Easter school holidays and is also the National Saints' Day of England. In that World Book Day spirit, here are some interesting posts we found on social media as people from all over the world posted quotes, photos, and videos to celebrate the day. We often bump into or meet up with kids at literary events in Nigeria, and whenever we do so, we like to capture them reading. Before we call it a wrap today, and still in the spirit of the World Book Day season, here are some of our favorite reading children.
That moment, Doug, the biggest pixie and wise one of the pixie herd, said, "Everyone," and he went forward and picked up the wand and handed it to the queen. She was angry with Sherfa and Demini. Right there and then, before going ahead to bless the Pisky land, cast a spell on them, spell of cast away. Cast away these two. Let them go until good they have done to come home, she said. So when Sherfa and Demi, tumbling down and down away from the pixie land and into another part of Mama Chacha's garden. This part of the garden was dark and filled with thick underground that looked scary. Demni held onto Shelfa, and they both scared. They shouldn't have played a trick on the queen, but it was too late to change that. How would they ever get back home? They wondered, but that thought soon flew out of their mind as they were running and screaming in fright. From the underground came several glows of lightning looking like monsters' eyes. They were fire glows, but Shelfa and Demny didn't know this. They ran screaming as the lights seemed to be chasing them. They ran and screamed harder, for the lights were advancing on them. Soon they were tired, and there seemed to be nowhere to run again. And so they heard each other screaming with their eyes closed as lights caught up on them. If they could come out of this alive, if there was monster could eat them, they would never play a trick on anyone again.
Sadly, I had a bad cold. I was admitted to the hospital for 5 days and later discharged with the advice that I continued my treatment at home religiously. Grandma volunteered cheerfully to stay over when my parents were busy at work. I had no concerns with Grandma's kind gesture, but my major predicament was a sewing machine coming with her. In my mind, I was hoping I didn't have to learn any life principles or wise saying because I wasn't done with the first. "Sandra dear, you'll be fine," she said. "When I was your age, my aunt made me a coat when the weather was terrible like this. She said it was our family tradition to hand over warm clothing from one generation to the next. Warmer to her meant a spirit of love, a bond the family shared. I still believe in this folklore and I can give you my coat if you want." She paused, then asked, "Do you want it?" I got up from a sleeping posture and reclined on my bed. "That was ages ago. Times have changed," I said. "Yes, trends fade, but there are traditions that are too good to erase as culture changes," she replied. After a short while, she offered, "Never mind, I will make you a trendy woolly dress instead." She walked away as she sang Stevie Wonder's Fingertips. Finally, I had time to rest, so I reduced the TV volume, slipped under my duvet for a quick nap. But just before I did, I heard footsteps coming towards my room. "You don't need to bother about your measurements. I'll change the one I have by a few inches so that the dress fits perfectly,"
Thank you, Mojoyin.
Grandma said.
Thank you. That's a job.
I thought as I closed my eyes, "Breakfast is ready," Dad called out. It was freezing Saturday morning. The temperature plunged further into negative digits. The coldest that month in Seattle, Washington. I felt better by miles, yet I had to wrap up in many layers. I got up and went for breakfast, but we kept the house super warm. "Where is Grandma?" asked Dad. Dad asked. "I think she'll still be in bed," I replied. We had a nice meal. However, it was strange for Grandma not to be part of it, considering her strong emphasis on how important breakfast was. She never missed it.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. As always, we'll be happy to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed right there on your screen. I am Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.